今回は村上宗隆選手、今井達也選手、岡本和真選手の移籍報道についてお届けします。中盤では球界最強左腕と称されるスクーバル投手がドジャース加入についての話題も、その他ストーブリーグ情報満載です。現地放送を翻訳してお届けいたします。
Hot Stove Live from Las Vegas is presented by Capital One, just outside the cosmopolitan of Las Vegas. Lauren Shahadi, JP Morosi leading the league in information. As always, good morning to you. A beautiful day in Las Vegas, coming off an epic World Series. Good morning again to you. I feel like the juxtaposition of the Japanese stars in that World Series and then the next influx of Japanese stars. Where are we? Where will they land? What's their future and where?
Lauren, good morning again. It is one of the best off seasons ever in terms of Japanese talent arriving to Major League Baseball. 3 superstars that we could see joining MLB teams in the coming weeks. And the news came out Friday. Munetaka Murakami officially posted by the Tokyo Yakult Swallows a significant left-handed bat. Kazuma Okamoto as well, and Tetsuya Imai. But let's focus on Murakami. We saw him here. He had the walk-off hit against Mexico in the semifinals of the WBC, and because of his youth, I believe he will have the richest contract of this class in terms of a per-year basis among the position players, at least. That is a significant power bat. We saw him, of course, have the record-setting season in terms of home runs by a Japanese-born player. And then this man, Kazuma Okamoto, from the Tokyo Yomiuri Giants. So he is... Okamoto's this pure right-handed bat, reminds me a bit of a Vinny Castilla. And then Tatsuya Imai, that was the news yesterday of the Seibu Lions, the same team that years ago gave us Daisuke Matsuzaka. Wow. Imai is someone, Lauren, that I've had people describe to me as being similar in profile to a Kodai Senga. He's not at the level of Yamamoto necessarily, but the belief is he is going to be a top level, at least a number 2 starter in Major League Baseball, was heavily scouted last year, in the last couple years actually. So when you look at this collection of stars, Lauren, these 3 players, it's going to be one of the best years ever in terms of talent coming over. And we just saw, as you documented, what we witnessed in the World Series with Yamamoto and Ohtani and Sasaki, Hae-Sung Kim coming over from Korea. It is an extraordinary level of talent coming over from Asia. And there was a reason, Lauren, that on this date last year, I was on my way to Taiwan. So I was gathering my scouting reports in preparation for this Hot Stove episode and segment. On this date 1 year ago, I was flying to Taipei City.
I just go to google.com and MLB.com. You fly to Taiwan. That's your level of commitment. Last year, I feel like, JP, it was a slow trickle-down effect in terms of Pete Alonso and Alex Bregman. It was February. Will we see that again, or will we see big-time free agents signed soon?
Lauren, my theory is this, from talking to people around the industry, that if we do see one significant bat sign early, that it could be Kyle Schwarber. And here's why. To me, his market is more defined than the others. We know that he's a DH first at this juncture. And the production that he has, we talked about this last week, comparing what he could do in his 30s to a David Ortiz-like 30s. You look at him, his level of fitness, strength, conditioning, he has totally revived his career from a standpoint of the physicality, the home run hitting, but also his presence in a clubhouse. He is around winning every single year. And Lauren, you think about the Red Sox, they've been trying to replace the presence that he brought ever since he left back in 2021. So I believe that when you talk about these position players, there are just more moving parts to some of the other players. Whereas with Schwarber, it is so clear what his role is. It is so clear what his value to the Phillies is. He plays for a team in Philadelphia, Lauren, that we know has always respected their veteran players and wanted to invest in their roster to make sure they keep their stars there. I still think the most likely outcome is that he returns to Philadelphia, but he is going to set a record, Lauren, I believe, for the highest ever DH salary in the history of the game. Yes, exactly. Shohei's in a category unto himself.
Different category.
Right.
And Dave Dombrowski came out early and said, we want him. He is a culture creator, to your point. I just covered the Brewers in the championship series, JP, and the second they were eliminated, it was talk about Freddie Peralta and that $8 million club option. They picked it up, of course. Have we heard the last of this? He's what you want.
He is. And I think, Lauren, there's a real chance that as we work around the lobby this week here in Vegas, that his name is going to be a popular one, as Matt Arnold of the Brewers is asked about his availability. And we have seen it, Lauren, so many times with this team. Corbin Burns, Devin Williams. When you have a significant piece in the final year before free agency, they have to listen. That is in their DNA. And one team I'll mention, I alluded to them briefly a moment ago in the Schwarber conversation, the Red Sox. The Red Sox, when you think about Garrett Crochet and you consider what they've been able to build there with the Red Sox getting back to the playoffs in 2025, they're, I think, one starting pitcher away from making a real run at this. And we know they've got an excellent farm system. They even have some position players they could move from the Major League club if they had to, with Duran and Abreu. So I think that's an interesting fit to watch going forward, potentially Brewers and Red Sox, with the Red Sox having interest in one significant starting pitcher.
29 years old is Freddie Peralta. Dylan Cease, 30 on opening day. I feel like I spent half my time asking you, and you're laughing because you know it's true,
right,
where he's going to go. I didn't realize he hadn't missed a start since 2020, JP.
Durable. Very, very durable,
wow,
right-handed pitcher. And there was a reason why at the deadline this year there was such interest from other clubs in acquiring him from San Diego. And I did some checking the last couple of days to confirm that at the deadline in July, the team that was most interested in him, the Houston Astros. And when you think about the Astros and their depth chart right now, Lauren, with Framber Valdez now being a free agent, I'm sure we'll get into Framber as the week goes along, they have a significant need for starting pitching help now in their rotation via free agency. And this resume right here, Dylan Cease, you talked about the reliability, Lauren, and everything that he's done. Those are strong innings totals for Dylan Cease. He's such a talented pitcher. His ability to generate velocity, the quality of the secondary stuff. And you think, too, he is someone that in the right environment, it's a tough place to pitch there in Houston, but when you consider that ballpark, I think his stuff would play very well there. So for the Astros, who we know are always trying to find ways to compete, they've had different pitchers be injured in recent years, but I think especially with Framber being a free agent, Dylan Cease to the Astros probably has as much of a chance of happening as any other free agent prediction out there at this early stage of the winter.
1 year removed from finishing fourth in Cy Young. We forget about that. JP, thank you so much. You're going to stick around. More to do on day one of the GM meetings live from Las Vegas. We're going to step aside on this installment of Hot Stove.
Welcome back to Hot Stove, live from Las Vegas. Hey, last Thursday, the Amazing Mets Foundation hosted 40 local baseball and softball teams at the Mets Academy in the Dominican Republic. In addition to picking up new baseball and softball gear, local athletes enjoyed games, food, and watched the Academy team play baseball. Juan Soto was there for a surprise visit, making the day even more memorable. The Amazing Mets Foundation worked with Grantee Partner to provide brand new equipment for all 40 teams. Nice event, nice to have the star power there with Juan Soto. And it gets us into a easy place to talk about Juan Soto, his first year in Queens. You know, instead of just kind of the cliched grade that you could give it, just give me your big picture. First year of a huge mega deal.
It was up and down, but, man, he ended up with great numbers. And he had a great year. I mean, the stolen bases is what throws me. This guy didn't steal bases at all. He got like a step off the bag, and next thing you know, he's stealing 40 bases. I mean, he put it all together this year. We don't even have – there it is, 38 steals. I mean – he became a different player, and I think that's what's interesting about it. But when the game was on the line and you needed Juan Soto to have the at-bats, he did. They got what they expected of this guy, and he's up for a Gold Glove, which was kind of a shocker as well. Look, this guy's a great ball player. He just is. He's a great player, and I know he gets sliced and diced. To me, he should have been in the All-Star game. That's the biggest snub I think I've seen in years. It was wrong for him not to be there. That's jealousy. But I thought he lived up to the contract. He did what they expect him to do.
Well, you mentioned how good that slash line looked by the end of the season, and he did end the season with unbelievably great numbers. Imagine if he had a better April and May, because look, through April and May, he wasn't very good at all.
No, and
so he put that season together essentially over 4 months and still ended with massive numbers.
But here's the thing. He's human. I know he got a $795 million contract. I don't care if it's $100 million. You try to prove it. And that's what he did in April and May. He went out swinging at pitches he doesn't swing at, trying to show everybody, I should be here.
Actually, he wasn't swinging at pitches. He should have. He turned into this passive, stoic kind of robot, which was so weird.
Yeah, he became a different player, and then I think he woke up. But that's, to me, Matt, you can look at any player who signs a big contract, and they always come out the gate trying to prove the contract.
Yeah.
And I thought that was Soto. Once he settled in, and he's on the other side of New York now, and he got rid of all the answering the Yankee questions every second. He's having to watch them. He's having to answer the questions. Went to the World Series with the team, got the money. After all that, he settled in, and he should have been an all-star player. And by the end, he's got big-time numbers, and he's up for the MVP now.
You know, I still think if you're looking at two $700 million players, the Ohtani $700 million is a better check.
Oh, no.
But
that was it when they signed the deal.
But the check it's not ours to write, so who cares, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was Joel Sherman or somebody more eloquent than you and I that said, look at the art world. Art is worth what somebody's willing to pay for it.
Absolutely.
And if the Mets are willing to go to $765 for a guy who's probably going to DH shortly, that's their prerogative. But look at the jump between the two $700 million guys, then Vlad, Trout, and the rest of the highest paid players in baseball. Here's the question I have for you now is, given those contractual commitments to guys like Soto and company, where next for the Mets? We know they need pitching, but are we to assume that they're just going to open up the checkbook and let it rip now?
They're going to have to. They're not going to have time to develop it, unless you run into a Savage or something like that, like Toronto did. But they're going to have. They got some young guys that came up and threw really well. But you got to get healthy arms. They really missed on the pitching. And down the stretch, it killed them. And they have to address the pitching. I think they got to address Pete Alonso.
Yeah.
They didn't want him last year. And he went out and had an incredible season. I think they're a whole different team without him.
Yeah,
so we can talk Juan Soto all you want, but if he has nobody around him, you're not getting those numbers.
I agree.
You're just not.
Just to tease what we're doing a little bit later on this program, we've got some guests that are going to join us. Mark Feinsand is here. Joel Sherman is here. Four-time All-Star Greg Vaughn is going to join us here today.
Wow. I didn't know
Which
Vaughn
is
was
super
in town.
cool, right? He's one of my favorite players from his era.
Yeah.
Jed Lowry's going to be with us as well. They're both participating in the inaugural MLB Open at Shadow Creek this weekend. There's so much happening in Vegas, and we're happy to be here for it. We're going to take a break. Days of coverage in Las Vegas, and when you're in Vegas, a shotgun wedding may be in order, the likes of which our next guest, the New York Post, Joel Sherman, was an officiant at. Was this here in Vegas, Joel?
No, this was in Westfield, New Jersey.
Same thing.
On Saturday night. What a lovely little town. Never been there. My oldest friend, 50 years, my friend Hale Hallisey. That's his new wife, Jody, who was the younger sister of a guy who was on one of our teams growing up. I got to do this.
Wow.
Ham it up.
That's loaded.
You begin, dearly beloved, and then you get to say, I never thought I'd say that anyplace. And then you go from there.
I'm sure you nailed it, too.
Five jokes, get off in 3 minutes, and move it along. I should do, like, circus here or something.
No, what did you have to do to be official? What did you have to go through?
It's best $47.26 I've ever spent at getordained.com. So please refer to me only as Reverend Joel.
Come on, you're serious? There's a getordained.com?
Getordained.com.
I should get on there right now because I feel like I'm about to meet my maker looking into this light. I'm like Belushi in Animal House when he goes into the James Brown
to the
church.
Light. Do not walk
Reverend Joel.
My goodness. Hey,
preach some a little bit here, Joel.
Let's hit you with some baseball here.
Give me an amen. I'm sorry.
Tarek Skubal. If he gets traded, Harold and I have said this on the show previously, it's the biggest offseason news that we'll have. Is he going to get traded for you? And if so, who's kicking the tires there?
I think this is a very, very difficult trade for the Tigers, and almost one where they have to be a clearinghouse and never actually kind of go out and do it, if you know what I mean, is where they just sit there and go, hey, everybody knows our situation. Would you like to spend $2 for $1? Because I feel like that's what it's got to be. He is the best pitcher on the planet. He is going to be a free agent at the end of the year. I would assume he's going to pitch someplace else in 2026 because the number's going to get to a place where I'm not sure the Tigers would go. But the Tigers haven't won a World Series since 1984. They are a good team. We've seen what this looks like in the postseason. you know, if you have this guy, you could win rounds.
Yeah.
Go out, you know, like should the thing be to go out and build around him for one more shot and then still have a good shot even without him moving forward without the other stuff? I will say this, what would scare me if I was the industry is I think the Dodgers are best positioned if they want to do this. They have developed so much pitching over the years. So like again, I hate it because I hate the aggregator idiots out there, and as soon as you say something, they jump on it. So I have no idea if the Dodgers are in it. I have no idea if they would do it. But if you think about it, and you're the Tigers, and you're going to be like, well, we still want to have a shot to win in 2026. Do you start with like Tyler Glasnow and Emmett Sheehan? And say like, oh, that's a guy who, like Glasnow, I just watched him pitch postseason games at a pretty high level. Sheehan's a guy who should really be in a rotation. It's just the Dodgers are too good. And then it's another guy or two and feel like, oh, it's not Skubal, but we didn't lose him for just draft picks. I feel like the Dodgers are best positioned, and they've certainly shown that they're not satisfied, and they're leaning into being great.
So the other part of this is, can they sign him?
So the answer,
because the Tigers have done that in the years past. They spent big money.
Of course, yes, because there was a time when Miguel Cabrera was the top of the market, and they did it. They are in a different time. That was a Mike Ilitch time. We're not there anymore. Scott Harris, who runs the baseball operations, I don't mean to speak for him, but if everything is breadcrumbs and fingerprints and you try to figure it out, it is not his style probably to put $400 million into a pitcher. And I do think the number will start at that level. Again, if he has another, this guy's about to win back-to-back Cy Young Awards.
Yeah.
We're going to make a big leap here that he's this good and healthy next year. How is every big team not bidding this up to 10 at 400 or more?
And the other side of this with the Tigers, for me, having lived in Seattle and done this with the Mariners, if you don't sign this guy, they got to make that decision now. And if you don't trade him, you don't move your organization forward. You have to continue
so this is
to
the
move
question
them.
I would
so
ask.
they could play the season out, but now you're going to get right down to the postseason line, and you're going to trade your star. You're going to lose your fan base.
Well, that's why I think if I ran the zoo, which I don't. I mean, I'm a reverend, but I don't run the zoo.
Yeah.
But I'd be like, hey, I'm going to try to. If you told me, I think he's, forgive me, like a 9th-round draft choice. If you told me on the day we drafted him, I only got these 6 years out of him, which is at least 2 Cy Youngs, maybe a third, and a couple of playoff runs, and maybe another shot at a championship year, and then all I'm getting is a draft pick at the end of it, I go, okay. Like the idea that you have to turn every guy into the future.
Joel.
But Harold, I don't have any shot to win in 2026 if I don't have.
Then I got to move it. Then I got to move him. And I got to get more for it. Look, I know he's a 9th-round pick,
a shot
but so was Tom Brady.
Yeah.
You know, and all of a sudden, if I had to trade Tom Brady, I want the house back.
Right, but I'm saying you don't have to trade this guy. You get the 6 full years out of him, and I would be comfortable and say, you know what? I got the best 6 years he's ever going to have. Good luck to the next guy who spends $400 million.
That's what the Angels thought about not trading Shohei Ohtani on a lesser scale.
But they were non-contenders.
True.
The Tigers came very close to eliminating the Mariners.
Yeah.
Like, you know, this was a real coin toss in the American League this year.
Yeah.
There's no reason why the Tigers couldn't have gotten through. My point would be, go spend some money this offseason around the guy and try to win. You haven't won. These are so precious. You haven't won since 1984.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Go for it. To me, go for it.
Here we are in Las Vegas, Joel, the heart of the Strip. Not far from New York, New York. We can't let you go without commenting on the 2 New York teams and how we think they're going to behave this hot stove season.
I think they're both going to be very aggressive. I think there's probably 7 to 10 teams. If anyone thinks teams are punting and saying, let the Dodgers have their dynasty, I don't think that's true. I think there's a lot of teams out there that are going to go big. I think that there's teams like Atlanta and Baltimore that traditionally haven't gone very big, or Seattle, who are going to go bigger than they normally do and take a run at this thing. If I was thinking about the Mets, a lot just revolves around Pete Alonso. Like, what does run prevention mean when David Stern said it over and over again at his press conference, right? Is Pete Alonso okay being, say, like a halftime DH as part of this? Because it would be very hard for me if I ran the Mets to break up a middle of the order with Soto and Alonso and Lindor and like that group if I'm trying to track down the Dodgers. On the other hand, it's going to be hard to get to run prevention if, like, you're aging out with Nimmo Lindor, Soto, and Alonso. That's 4 long-term contracts for position players deep into their 30s, and you wouldn't love the run prevention today. What does that look like moving forward? For the Yankees, I think a lot of this revolves around what they do with Cody Bellinger. If they get him re-signed, I think a lot of the offseason goes easier for them. I know they're going to get tied to Kyle Tucker. I just feel like that is not a Hal Steinbrenner move for $300 million plus here. I could be wrong. He was up over $700 million in a bid last year for Soto. Is he willing to do about half of that for Tucker? Is Tucker a New York player? I'm not sure about that.
I don't know about
I
that
know
either.
Cody Bellinger is. So I feel like a lot of that, and they have a tricky puzzle with starting pitching just because Rodon and Cole will not start the season on time because of surgeries. Right? But they probably will be back somewhat early in the season, and Clark Schmidt will be back about August 1st. So how do you navigate adding starting pitching but being able to remove it if and when your guys come back? So I think they've got to add at least one and some late game relievers.
All right, so to me, the Phillies are a little bit spicier. Real quick, on the Pete Alonso thing, move him closer to the bag. You don't have to play him over at freaking second base to play first. Move him next to the base. And that solves your run differential or whatever else they want to do.
Can I just say one thing about that real quick? I know we want to touch the Phillies. I just watched the World Series where Vlad Guerrero Jr. and Freddie Freeman played first base. And I think we throw away that position and say, yeah, you could put anyone there. But then you see guys play at a state of the art, especially Vlad, and you realize those guys touch the ball a lot. They throw the ball a lot, and I would just not throw it away. And we might be looking at a Pete Alonso, Ben Rice first base combo in New York this year. And I'm not sure that that's great.
So Phillies, it's a little bit spicier because you're looking at Schwarber and you got the comments about Harper. Yeah. So talk to me about the state of the Phillies. What do you think?
So I think the Phillies are in an interesting situation because I think they're going to spend, but they don't know today if it's on their own. I think if you said to the Phillies, within the parameters of what you could do financially, you get to keep Harrison Bader, Ranger Suarez, and more important, Schwarber and Real Muto. They'd go, sign us up. Even though that's older players except for Suarez, and they've already got some older players on the thing, these guys, they either have to keep them or replace them. And these are guys they know they could succeed with there. Clearly, Schwarber is case one, but he's going to be attractive to everybody. They're going to have to spend a lot of money to keep him. What does that mean for the rest of it? But literally, if they don't do Schwarber, they need a bat. If they don't do Real Muto, they need a catcher. If they don't do Bader, they need a center fielder. If they don't do Suarez, they need at least one more starter. So this is they've got to take some of the time between now and probably the winter meetings to get a really strong feeling about what does plan A look like? How many of these guys do we keep? And then jump into plan B.
I just don't understand how teams get down to the wire like this. I mean, maybe they made offers to those guys during the season. But it just puzzles me every season we sit here.
Because the players and the agents aren't going to make it easy on them. But they're going to take it all the way to free agents. They want to get paid.
Well, I don't know. I honestly believe in my heart, had you gone to Kyle Schwarber, he has implanted himself in Philly. He's got all the things going there. If you'd have went to him and said, hey, look, here's what we're going to do. You're our guy. We're locking you up, and here's the amount of money we're going to, and nobody else is going to touch that. I think he'd be a Philly right now today.
I think he and his camp want to hear about what else there is.
Yeah,
what else is out there?
I think, and Harold, you know this the best on this desk right here. You work pretty hard to get 6 years in the majors or to whatever it is where you get to free agency. And you'd like to go out there in the beauty pageant and see how many people wink at you.
Yeah.
And I think that that's where a lot of this is at right now is like because I think if we had this conversation sitting here last year, we'd have a wholly different number for Kyle Schwarber.
Absolutely.
Than where we're actually going to end up.
But I think you got to know the personality of the guy as well.
Yes.
He's been in Chicago. He's been different places. He's been out there as a free agent. I think he found a home.
All right, we got to take a break, if only because I am melting in the sun right here, and because we have a little table gaming to come. Joel, thank you.
Outstanding, buddy.
Great
Thanks,
stuff
Ralph.
as always. We're going to hit the tables. Oh, let them fly. Beautiful red and black squares, a couple of annoying green squares.
We gotta go in the casino, like for real.
I've been here.
See if we can film something in there.
We've been here for a day. Like the idea that I would have just arrived yesterday and just checked in and went to bed. Who's that guy?
Wow.
What?
It was a long day, man. It was a long day.
We're gonna play a little roulette here and take a couple of spins of the wheel for Harold to take his best crack at things. So let's spin it for the first time. We're here kicking off our live coverage in Las Vegas. Some table game themed discussions. And let's play the outside a little bit. The Reds, the Cincinnati Reds. What do they need to do this postseason or this offseason to get back into the tournament and maybe get a little deeper than the wild card round?
Wow. I honestly thought that they were going to be a better team than they were last year. I thought they were lined up. They're up and down with their health. I think that affected them. But I'm looking at second year of Terry Francona, going to spring training with the full season. They don't need a lot. You know, they've got some great young pitching. You've got a star in Ellie De La Cruz who played basically every game this year. I do think they got to give him a little bit more days off. But I'm looking at what they did this year. I mean, they were right there knocking at the door. They just got to be able to go to the next level. I don't think they need a lot. I think they need to get to spring training and continue to work.
I'll make one specific recommendation, and I love the way Nick Kroll and his staff have put together a very lean payroll roster.
Yeah.
Like, there's no burdensome debt here.
No.
You can't look at that and say, bad contract. That guy, they can't wait to get rid of that money. That's not the case there. So they're in a place where they can afford to write a check. Easy for us to spend other people's money. But a guy like Kyle Tucker, that's exactly what they need. The kind of pop in that ballpark. They need a big masher in the middle of their lineup, and that might be all they need, as a matter of fact.
I think he fits Cincinnati as a town, as a community, as a place to play.
Yeah.
You know, they were talking about New York earlier last segment, Joel. I don't know. I don't know if Kyle Tucker's a New Yorker for me, but I think he fits perfectly right there in Cincinnati, in that ballpark.
Imagine this swing in Great American Small Park.
But they're going to have an Ellie De La Cruz problem. They're going to eventually have to pay this young man. So they should be working on that now to try to get some discounted stuff.
Or you kick that can down the road and pay somebody around him and then worry about it when it comes due. Here's the next spin. Let's see what happens. Let's spin that roulette wheel one more time. I just bought in with $50. It's my limit. Let's play the third 12. You can play those groups of 12. And we'll take it this way. This is a list, Harold, of teams that finished in 4th or 5th place in their divisions. Take a look at it. Which in this group, in the third 12, if you will turn it around best in 2026?
Well, Atlanta's going to turn it around best immediately. They're a playoff team. I look at those guys right away. The other club I kind of zeroed in on was the Orioles, as I saw them. And I really felt like the A's were going to be a team that really contended in the West last year. I thought those three clubs kind of just jumped out at me. They're all intriguing because they've all been somewhat perennial winners, and they're kind of floating in the privy right now.
Down cycles.
Yeah.
Who's going to snap out of the down cycle? You mentioned the Orioles, so let me follow up with one guy who's so interesting for them. We thought a couple years ago that it was going to be Adley Rutschman's team, certainly his position behind the plate. Yeah. Now they get into bed long-term with Samuel Basallo. Rutschman's coming off 2 years that are probably, for him and his skill set, not as good as we could have expected. I'm trying to be diplomatic here, but they were disappointing years.
Yeah.
What's next for he and the Orioles?
Well, I think for one, on Adley's side, he tried to play through injury because it was his team. And I don't know if he got rewarded because of the fact of the effort. And so the numbers went a whole different direction. His play was not there. I still think he's a top-tier catcher in the big leagues.
I agree.
And there's going to be a lot of clubs, if they're talking about moving him, to move him. Basallo, they're talking a lot about first base with him. Not as much behind the plate, although I think he's a really good defender. But you can't go out and sign that kid for that kind of money and not think you're going to do something with Adley. So that will be what the interesting winter for me. I don't think you go to camp with them both. I think they got to make a move.
Really?
You got to figure out.
Oh, that's a hot take.
Yeah, you got to figure it out.
Okay. I mean,
before you get to camp.
I'll go back to what you just said, and I think that's the most important point. If, in fact, they're looking for deals for Adley Rutschman, you got about, 25 other clubs that would love to have that discussion.
Yeah.
Still a young dude, still super talented, and we'll see if it lands someplace outside of Baltimore.
And welcome back to the Monday Hot Stove, presented by Capital One Las Vegas, the center of the baseball world this week. And we're thrilled to have Mark Feinsand with us on this episode of Hot Stove. Good morning to you. You ready, GM Meek? Starts in earnest.
I mean, who's not ready for the GM meetings, especially when they're in Las Vegas, right?
Was your flight delay over under 7 hours?
I actually, knock on wood, had no
Nope,
delays.
stop it right
made
now.
my connection.
You're winning.
The whole thing
Don't
was
even
great.
play blackjack.
Good start to the week.
Kyle Tucker doesn't need to play blackjack. That is for sure. We started months ago. The number was 500 million. Where are we at this point?
I'm not sure we're going to get to 500
Yep.
million. I think 400 million is realistic, though not guaranteed. He didn't have a great year. He had a really good first half. He had that hand injury that sort of hampered him into the summer, missed the last few weeks with a calf strain. So, when you're talking about a free agent of this magnitude, there's only a limited number of teams you're really going to be talking about. So the question is, which of those big market teams are going to be in on him? He will have a market. He will make a lot of money this winter. I feel like with Kyle Tucker, the contract itself might be just as intriguing and interesting as which team he ends up with.
Do you think it extends deep into the offseason? What's the timing of it in your mind?
Well, I think because it's a more limited market, you're not looking at 10, 12 teams that are out there. I think they'll have an idea pretty early which teams are in on him. So I don't know that it's going to be, plus when you're talking about teams that are thinking about committing $300, $400 million to a guy, they can't go deep into the winter because that's going to affect what they do the rest of the winter. So, if you told me he's going to sign at the winter meetings, I wouldn't be stunned.
If I told you Cubs, would you be stunned?
Yes.
You would be stunned. Okay. What about for Alex Bregman? The marriage in Boston signed so late, Mark. It was in February. The marriage seemed perfect. What are the chances he goes back there?
I think there's a pretty good chance that he winds up back there. They obviously shed a big salary by trading Rafael Devers last year. Bregman, like you said, was a perfect fit. They love the leadership he provided there. They've got a lot of young players. He opted out of the deal. It was 2 years and $80 million, but with the deferrals, it was more like 60. I think he's looking for something long-term security. He's in his early 30s. Didn't want to go with a 2-year deal to put him out in free agency at 33. So I could see Alex Bregman going back to Boston on a longer-term deal, a little lesser AAV than the 40 million or even the 30 million, probably that range. There are going to be other teams in on him as well, but I think that the fit in Boston is so perfect, wouldn't surprise me at all if he stays
What
there.
other teams? Other AL East teams? Yankees come to mind?
No, I mean, the Yankees just traded for Ryan McMahon last summer. He's got a couple years left on his contract. I don't see that being a great fit. The Mets are a team that's always going to be in the mix there. A lot of that will depend on what happens with Pete Alonso. If Pete Alonso signs somewhere else, they can move Mark Vientos to first. Maybe Brett Beatty goes to second. That opens up third base for Bregman. So I think the Mets are a team to watch if Pete Alonso doesn't return to New York.
To your point of the timing of the big name free agents, Craig Breslow, I'm sure, is on it in Boston. You're here for the GM meetings. 3 new president of baseball ops, although hardly new to the game, just new to their respective teams. What does this week look like for them?
Well, each of them have a very different situation, right? Chaim Bloom in St. Louis has been with the team for a couple of years as an advisor to John Mozeliak, so he's very familiar with the inner workings of their team. He's been helping sort of mold where they're headed. He's obviously run 2 teams before, so it's not like he has to get here and establish relationships in this role, but now he's in charge in St. Louis, and so it'll be interesting to see how does he approach this winter. Do they go out and sign free agents? Last year they didn't sign a free agent until middle of spring training, so are they going to be a little more aggressive this winter? Paul Taboni in Washington got a nice young core, a lot of outfielders. Got to figure out that whole situation. He's a first-time head of baseball operations, so for Paul, he's got to figure out sort of how do you approach this part of the season in this role. The last one is Paul DePodesta, who's been in this role before, but not for 10 years. He's been in the National Football League for the last 10 years, so he's got to sort of reintroduce himself. He's also got the hardest job in that the Rockies have the longest rebuild ahead of them. Washington's got some really good young players. They've got a little money to spend, I think.
They're on their way.
They're on their way. You can see the addition of a few players, and the Washington Nationals could be on their way up. The Rockies have a lot of work ahead of them. DePodesta still wants to hire a GM. He's got to start figuring that out. And, the Rockies have a long way to go to get back to contention.
For you as an insider, you spend this week with new general managers. Even though you know these men, do you start relationships with them? I wonder how that goes for you.
The GM meetings is a great opportunity for us just because it's a little more low-key.
More access.
More access, and the winter meetings are just, everybody's running around like chickens without heads, right? You barely see people. They're up in their suites. They're in meetings. They're not roaming the lobby. There's the job fair. There's hundreds of people running around. The GM meetings are a little more low-key, although I don't know if Vegas can really be considered low-key at all because you're looking for people while you're watching people play blackjack.
Sure.
So it's a little different, but yeah, it's certainly a better opportunity to try to get to know some people and establish some of those relationships.
The Blue Jays top of mind, one game short of the promised land. What is on their checklist? I think I know the answer to this question in this offseason.
Well, I think you know what number one is,
Bo-Bichette.
and that's to bring Bo Bichette back. And it's interesting because a year ago, most people thought this was going to be his last year. He might even be traded at the deadline, depending on how things had gone with their season. Obviously, he had a big bounce-back season. The Blue Jays had a huge bounce-back season. And now it seems like there's a lot of momentum to bring him back on both sides. I think he wants to stay and finish that job, continue playing with Vladdy and sort of ride this thing out in Toronto. But we'll see what the check looks like at the end of the day, because that's going to probably determine whether Bo Bichette returns. They also have to figure out some stuff in their rotation. Chris Bassett's a free agent. Max Scherzer's a free agent. Kevin Gausman's a free agent next year. So, they've definitely got some work to do, but it's all right there for them.
Were you surprised Shane Bieber came back? We loved it. We talked about it on Hot Stove. They stayed with him during injury, and then he rewarded him at the end of the day. Were you surprised by it at the time?
I was, only because I think based on how he pitched this year, I thought he could have commanded certainly a multi-year deal for more money, but going to the World Series, there's something to be said for that, and I think he felt very comfortable there. He liked it there, and really sees that this is a chance to go and finish that job next year. So yeah, it's always encouraging to see that kind of thing happen.
Do you think Bo Bichette, seeing a country united like that and that team perform on the biggest stage like that, changes how he feels, makes him feel a certain way, Mark?
Yeah, I think he wants to go back to Toronto if all things are equal. But the question is, will another team come in over the top and try to, pry him away from Toronto with a much bigger offer? Look, the Blue Jays have money. They can pay him. They paid Vladdy $500 million. They can pay Bo Bichette if they want to. The question is, what's that number going to look like? I'd be surprised if he doesn't wind up back there, just because I think it's such a good fit and they have such a good thing going. Like you said, one game away from winning the World Series. I think he sees that. If they hadn't gotten to the playoffs this year, or if they had been a first-round exit again, they'd never won a playoff game with Bo and Vladdy before this year, things might have been different. But the fact that they got as close as they did, I think Bo Bichette looks at it and says, this is not only the place I'm comfortable and happy, but this is the place where we can win the World Series.
What will the Giants do? I was listening to MLB Network Radio the other day, and they made a good point. They're not getting Tony Vitello and Buster Posey kind of making all these moves, the mastermind of it all, to not go for it. What do you think they're off? It's an interesting offseason, I think. What do you think?
I think pitching is going to be the priority. They've got, they brought in Devers last year. They have some bats there, but they do need some help in the rotation beyond their top couple guys. I don't think they're going to go for the top level pitchers on the free agent market, because that's not something they've traditionally done. They don't like to take that risk, knowing the kind of injuries that pitchers can incur. But I do see them going out and looking at some of the better pitchers on the market who can go on a shorter deal. Maybe you're looking at a Merrill Kelly. Maybe you're looking at a Chris Bassett, somebody like that. Maybe Zach Littell. I think there are guys out there who can help them and make them better and stabilize that rotation. They're in a very tough division with the Dodgers, with the Padres. The Diamondbacks are going to be back this year. So they've got some work to do, but I think that it's doable.
You're off the hot seat. I've asked you everything I got. Mark Feinsand with the very latest on this Monday edition of Hot Stove. Thank you so much for the time.
We'll talk again.
I'm sure we will, and I'll ask probably the same questions once again. Let's step aside on this edition of Hot Stove. Hot Stove coming your way live from Las Vegas. We are presented by Capital One, the GM meetings, all MLB, golf galore, a full week. John Heyman is here to work. No golf, yes?
No golf for me.
How's your golf game?
Terrible. I haven't played in 30 years, and it was terrible then.
Okay, terrible then. You're going to stick to what you're good at, which is free agents. Plenty to do off the course. In terms of free agent notable starters, what do we know? We don't know much. We don't know landing spots, right?
No, it's
But what
too
do we
early
know early November?
Well, it appears that Imai will be posted, and that's a big one. I mean, this is a guy who was a 2.1 ERA over the last 4 years, throws 99. Not the splitter, but the slider with a fastball. He joins that top three group, I believe, with Cease and Valdez. Valdez been very, very consistent over his career. I mean, the biggest winner, tied with Max Fried this decade. Cease, so talented and so durable. Those are the top three guys, but I don't think it's a bad market. People are complaining. Obviously, we don't have a Snell, we don't have a Fried, we don't have a Burns, maybe, but we have some depth. Certainly, King is a good pitcher. We have Ranger Suarez, Gallen, Imanaga now, Giolito, Woodruff, Bassett, Verlander, Scherzer. So it's a pretty good list of starting pitchers. I think it's fairly deep. don't really have that true number one at the top, but potential number ones with Imai. Cease, if you can figure out the consistency. Obviously, Valdez is an excellent pitcher as well.
Were you surprised Shota Managa became a free agent? We were. We reported it live on Hot Stove, and we thought, wow, we weren't expecting that at that time.
Yeah, I got to admit, I was shocked. I thought 3 for 57 was very reasonable for a guy who's done what he's done. Had an ERA under 4 this year, 9-8 record. It was just that last year where he had 20-something innings with 10 home runs. Wasn't getting the splitter. I mean, 1 month seemed to do it, but right now he's in a little bit different situation. He's got the qualifying offer. May take it. I'm not sure if he will. I know he likes Chicago. I believe they like him. They just felt that 57 was a little high considering that last month.
What about big bats? It's hard to imagine Pete Alonso in a different uniform. I know Alex Bregman, we've talked about him at length, signed late last off season. I think it was February. Cody Bellinger. I just asked you 7 questions.
Right.
Where do you want to go?
Well,
What's top of mind?
I mean, it was hard to imagine Albert Pujols in a different uniform.
True.
People move. If they're a free agent, this is the second time with the Mets. We'll see if Steve Cohn can save him once again as he did last year for the Mets. They do have that run prevention issue that they're looking at. I'm not guaranteeing he's going to the Mets. I think he's going to have a much better market without the qualifying offer. Also had an outstanding offensive year, much better this year than last year. So, I mean, I could see, I've heard Houston, which a little bit surprising to me, but obviously Alonso's got other potentials with Boston and many others. Tucker's the top of the market. I mean, will he get $400 million? I think that's the question. Outstanding all-around player. Maybe people in Chicago weren't completely satisfied. He did have a 143 OPS, so that's a pretty good year. It's basically the same number of walks as strikeouts. That's very rare in today's age. Tucker's the top of the market. Bellinger's obviously up there. Bichette, Bregman, and of course Schwarber, who had the big year with 56 home runs. So there are 6 real bona fide stars that are out there. You certainly got Torres is outstanding. Eugenio Suarez, Kim, there's a fairly long list of hitters out there to get.
Cody opted out of, 25? What do you think that looks like? What's the comp this offseason?
Yeah, that was an easy call. I mean, some people were kind of a little surprised by Bregman opting out with 2 for 80. I wasn't. I think he can easily double that. Bellinger, to me, right now is in a great position because he's now had 3 very good years in a row. Maybe not the MVP year, but he performed outstanding in New York. He had a higher WAR.
Tailor-made.
I mean, the Yankees are going to go for him. He fits the Mets. They don't have a center fielder or a first baseman right now. He is more versatile than Tucker, right? Because we know he can play center. I think Tucker can probably play center too, but Bellinger's already proven in center. He's outstanding at first base. He's amazing at the corners. He's in outstanding position, I think, for the first time. This is 3rd free agency, or potential free agency, but he really is in outstanding position. The Phillies are a possibility. Could he go back to the Dodgers? I think people over there still like him. It was a situation where he had those 2 down years off the injury. I think he's in outstanding position as well. So you've got Bregman, Bellinger, Alonso, Schwarber, obviously Tucker. It's an interesting class. No Juan Soto, no Ohtani. Obviously, you don't have that kind of a player, but you've got some very good players.
Whenever we come off October, we realize the need for lockdown closers and big-time relievers. Who's at the top of that list?
Well, it's got to be Edwin Diaz. Now that's one I don't see him going. I think he really wants to stay. I'm sure that they want to keep him. I don't think it's a split decision. I don't think this is an Alonso situation. I'm going to be shocked. That one I'm going to be shocked. More shocked than Shota if he does not come back to the Mets. I do think he'll get an extra year or maybe 2 years. Maybe it's 4 for 80, something like that. His opt-out was also fairly obvious. It is an outstanding market. The Robert Suarez has more saves than anybody in the National League over the last 2 years, 76 saves. Helsley obviously wasn't himself with the Mets, but he's a very good closer. You've got Kenley Jansen, who aiming for the Hall of Fame. You've got Keller. You've got Luke Weaver. It's a nice list. I mean, I think if there is a strength in this market, it is the relief pitching.
You're going to be busy. No golf, just work. John Heyman.
No golf.
With the very latest.
No
Thank
time
you so
for
much. We're going to step aside on this Monday edition of Hot Stove. We have said just about everything there is to say, but we will say one final thing and say goodbye on a Monday. It's next.
いかがだったでしょうか。いよいよ本格的なストーブリーグの始まりを感じますね。本チャンネルでは今週から始まる表彰ラッシュもタイムリーにお届けしていきます。それでは次回の動画でお会いしましょう。さようなら。